the latter before it turns, unfortunately, again. So I have been a part of UNI for around 5 years now. That is full time. But I was also a volunteer before this, and I was a volunteer at Chennai. So if I include my volunteer experience, it's been 8 years since I've been a part of UNI. Started off as a volunteer teaching a child in the center in Chennai, and then became a leader, then a chapter leader, which is what a lot of us in this room are. And then I went on to become a manager at UNI. So a lot of what I'm going to share is derived from two spheres of life. One is my experience in having worked with, I think at this point, thousands of volunteers, right, across 8 years. And from another scope of life, which is looking at both social development as a sector, as a career path in which you can take, but also from my experience of now doing learning and development, where I've also been able to work with corporates myself, right? So there's a lot of different spaces from which I'm going to take experience from. But the most important thing is that what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to sell you something that I've not experienced myself. It's something that I try to practice on an everyday basis. That's something that we practice as an organization. And I have seen being a deal breaker for a lot of people, right, in their field. And the most important thing is for you to be able to take away the right lessons, right? So I'm just going to share my screen. So yeah, and just let me know if you can see what I'm about to share. There's going to be a lot of interaction where I'll ask you to type things out in the chat box. And if I'm able to finish early enough, I'd love Q&A where people are able to ask questions, right? But my only condition is I would love it if we can have as much interaction as possible, right? So one important note for all of you to know is when we started Ultra Leaders 2 years ago, or even a year ago, we had around 200 people in the group. And then we took an intentional decision this year that we're going to cap the number of people who are a part of Ultra Leaders. We want to focus on quality, not on quantity. And we want to bring in people who have been nominated by their managers, by their fellows, as whom they consider to be the most entrepreneurial or the most hungry to learn. Right. So here, I would love to see your videos on. I would love for you to participate, to ask questions. Let's have as much of a healthy back and forth as we possibly can. This is the Ultra Leaders of 2025-26. Give me your best, and I'm ready to give you my everything as well. Right. So sharing my screen. Here we go. Okay. Can you see Chandler pop up right now?
Sir.
All right. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Cool. So for some of us, this may be familiar, but I think for most of us, this is not going to be the case, right? So you would have seen the video that talks about not being Sheldon. It's about being Chandler, right? But this isn't about how you can be the wittiest person in the group. This isn't about how you can be the drama queen in your group, right? In fact, this is about how we can leverage the power of small signals in being able to create big impact. Right? What do I mean by this? I'm obviously not talking about the signal on your phone. It's about what signals you give as a person when you walk into a room. Right? A lot of times we would have heard the word influence being used. Right? We may talk about political influence. We may talk about how this person has some influence. When I say the word influence, what comes to your mind? Could you put that down in the chat box? What comes to your mind when you hear the word influence? Impact. Okay, interesting. Changing lives, impact, leader, inspiring and taking it forward. Okay, nice. Change. All right, lovely. Okay. Okay, nice. Cool. Right. And I think this is interesting because usually and I think this kind of validates the fact that maybe we do have ultra leaders here because when I usually ask what do you think of influence, people tend to say power or control, right? Because that's generally how people use the word influence. Right? It has very deep negative connotations. Right? But here you can see growth, the subtle influence to move people, right? So that's good, right? So because fundamentally here, when we talk about influence, right, we're talking about when you interact with someone.
But
right? Yeah, what that
Yes,
person
Anna.
it means
Say
when someone feels like you have a
it
lot of
was
influence.
right.
Wait, I think we need to mute that person. Okay, cool. I think we're good, right? So when we talk about influence, right, when someone says, hey, I think Farhana has a lot of influence, or Sashwati has a lot of influence, or Pramiti has a lot of influence, it means that I know what you care about, and you also make sure that I care about it as well, right? That's what influence means. And every person who talks to you is able to take that away from you every single time. Right. So it's not just about whether you know your stuff. It's also about, can you get other people to care about it? Right. And there was a study that was done by Dr. Susan Fiske from Princeton University. And they had done this thing where they tried to figure out what it is that highly charismatic people rank well in, right? What are the two specific traits that they're really, really good at, right? And now I'm going to ask my next question here. I still love that people are answering my first question. I'm going to ask my next question. What do you think are the two specific traits they identified in highly charismatic people? What do you think those two specific traits are? Put it down in the chat box. Any guesses? Confidence, charm, communication. Okay, coming in. Good communication and empathy, approachability, easy to speak plus confidence, leading by example, confidence and empathy, confidence and speaking skills. Love it. Okay, cool. Okay, why don't we do one thing? You all come and facilitate the session because you're clearly just guessing, clearly answering it really, really well, right? You've hit the nail on the mark, right? If we take a combination of what a lot of you are saying, some of you have said empathy, warm and approachable, all that stuff. Some of you are literally using the word, right? The two specific traits that came up the most often is warmth and competence, right? It's not just how approachable they are, but also how confident do they sound when they talk about something, right? So when we use the word warmth, there are a lot of things that you said, right? How trustworthy do they come across? Are they someone who's likable, right? Generally, people who are not warm come across as people who drain a lot of energy in the room, right? Like it's exhausting to talk to them because they may know everything, but for whatever reason, when you talk to them, you don't feel like you're very capable. You don't feel like you're very smart, right? Warm people don't do that. When you talk to them, you feel like you're having a good time, right? And similarly, when we talk about competence, if you talk to someone who's warm and not necessarily competent, you don't necessarily feel like I'm going to learn a lot from this person. You don't feel like this person knows exactly what's going on. They have an amazing smile, right? I love hearing them crack jokes, but I don't think they really know what's going on. Right? And the problem here is not that they know. The problem is not that they don't care. They could be doing both of those things, but the problem is that they're not signaling it enough. Right? And that could be a lot of your experiences as well. Right? Some people may have come up to you and told you, hey, when I talk to you, I feel like you're very intense and I feel like you only care about results and I don't feel like you really care about how I feel. Right? A lot of your goal-oriented people in this room definitely likely to have felt that way. I know I've been given that feedback as well, right? And similarly, there are people who bring a lot of energy in the room, who are able to get people laughing, but sometimes you yourself may feel like the room doesn't take you as seriously. And a lot of that is actually signaling, right? People, when they're facing these kinds of scenarios, tend to think, okay, I need to change myself as a person. I need to mask this insecurity by projecting overconfidence. You don't have to do that. You're actually tapping into the wrong signals. What you should be able to signal when you're able to talk to a group of people is, can I trust you? Right? Can people say yes to this question? And can I rely on you? Which is another thing that they should be able to say yes to. Right? And obviously in you and I, we love 2x2 matrices, right? We love 2x2 quadrants. So I have one for you here, right? When we try to plot warmth versus competence, right? People who are very high on warmth, but are not very high on competence, right? They tend to fall in the top left quadrant, right? And those who are very high on competence and not very high on warmth tend to fall in the second quadrant, right? The bottom right quadrant, right? This is generally where most people are. I've talked about this for so long, right? We'll quickly keep moving, right? And then there are people who, well, I don't think it's loading. Yeah. And then there are people who, when they have a lot of warmth, then they don't have a lot of warmth and they don't have a lot of confidence, they fall into something that we call the danger zone, right? Which is that you're not giving any signals. And this is something that I faced in my own experience, be it in corporate spaces, be it in volunteering, be it whatever, right? They can really, really care, right? But when you talk to them, it's like nothing, right? If you watch or if you've seen Patrick Bateman, right, you don't really know what's going on sometimes, right? You don't know if they're actually enjoying these things or if they're having a good time, right? You're just confused about whether they're in the right space at the right time. But meanwhile, people that are able to project both warmth and competence come across to you like they have this ability to, like some people said in the chat box, to really attract attention, right? To really get people's attention, and not in a bad way. It's that, okay, I'm getting your attention so we can create change together. And they're able to do that so effortlessly. So how do we channel these different things, right? So what I'm about to do is I'm just going to quickly ask you some questions, right? When I ask you, can you think of someone who signals only warmth? It could be from pop culture. It could be someone that you know in your personal life. Like if they're in the room, don't name them. Yeah. But if you had to pick a name, right, of someone who projects only warmth, who would you say they are? Put that in the chat box. Oh, my mom, that's so cute. Someone said my name. Thank you, Meghna, making me blush like this. Who is someone that is only projecting warmth? Oh, nice. My mother. This is just a Mother's Day special, everybody. My friends. My grandmother. That's so lovely. Friends warm. Okay, love it, right? Now we'll quickly go to the next one. Who is it that only signals competence to you? Only competence. Niranjan has said Raj. Who is Raj? We don't know, but Raj. Okay, I believe you, Niranjan. Who is someone who only projects competence, doesn't project anything else? Okay, someone said my dad. Okay, dad. Okay, right? A lot of our archetypes are coming out, right? My professor, right? Myself. Just patting yourself in the back like this. Batman. I think Batman's a good example, right? Projects confidence but not warmth. My HOD, okay, I think a lot of feelings are coming out. Yeah, nice. Okay, now coming to the next one, right? Who's someone that projects only like in the danger zone, right? In this quadrant, who comes to mind when you think danger zone? They don't make you feel great, and you also don't feel like they know what exactly is going on. You're not able to read what's going through their mind. Myself, okay, nice, and I like that, right? We're practicing self-awareness. My principal, right? Authoritarian figures do tend to do that. My ex, okay, okay, my ex-friends. Okay, thank you. We will take that segue. Lovely. Right, and we'll do the last one. Who comes to your mind when you think influencer? Okay, nice. My dad, my HOD, right? Now we are seeing like some people who cut through all that, right? Who cut through the archetypes. Someone said K-pop. Okay, BTS fans in the house. KL Rahul, my chapter leader. Like, who said that? Okay, Sai Arshita, Coimbatore. Lovely. Okay, my class teacher, my fifth grade English teacher, lovely, right? Now here comes all the people who have actually created like the kind of influence in our lives that we feel, okay, they've really been able to influence a lot, right? That's lovely. So now I'm going to move on to the next part, right? Now I'm going to take the show Friends. Okay, hopefully we've seen Friends. Are we still in the year where Friends isn't a thing anymore? Okay, we some are nodding. Okay, we'll take it. Okay, great. That's good. That's good. That's good. Okay. Now, if I ask you to tell me from the show Friends, who only signals warmth, who would you say it is? I have not seen Friends. It's okay. You can guess. Okay, Joey. Okay, Joey. Okay, right. I think we're getting a lot of us. I think I just majority Joey's in the chat. Someone said Pradeep. I didn't realize there was a Pradeep in the show. Right? Maybe we're like maybe Friends on Doordarshan is doing that. I don't know what that's about. Okay, nice. Right? So Joey is definitely someone who signals warmth, right? And you can see that a lot of the show, right? Joey doesn't necessarily know what's going on, right? Once in a while he says something amazing, which becomes like a meme, but that's because it's one of the few times, right? Like a moo point or whatever he says. Right now, if I ask you, who do you think is someone who's influenced, like an influencer, right? Someone who's able to showcase both warmth and confidence. Who would you say is a common archetype here from the show? Rachel and Monica. Oh my God. That is not my answer. Yeah. But interesting though. That's interesting. Okay, cool. I think we're getting a consensus. You are, come on, Dharan. Don't be like this. I wasn't on the show, friends. Mike Tyson. What shows are we watching? Right? So I think we can see the common consensus in the group, right? It's Chandler, right? Someone who's able to display, okay, saying, hey, these are some things that I'm emotionally struggling with, but is also able to somehow be the wittiest person in the room. And when we talk about competence, you have Ross, right? Loves talking about dinosaurs, but just doesn't know when to talk about dinosaurs, right? That's kind of the whole joke with Ross, right? Um, and now there's another person in the show who isn't in your gang of friends, right? But would fall in the danger zone. Whose name comes to mind? A recurring character, right? On the money, right? The recurring character who isn't a part of the main group of friends is Gunther, right? Gunther, right, is really into Rachel, but the signals he gives just isn't it, right? You don't know what he's thinking. Is he thinking of killing her? Is he thinking of proposing to her? You don't know, but you know Gunther's there, and that's someone who's in the danger zone, right? Now, obviously, right, like this isn't an analysis about the show Friends, but it's just a way to showcase how these archetypes really manifest and the kind of influence that they bring into the real world, right? When the show Friends first started, generally how your TV series tend to position people is based off of who they think is going to be the showstopper, the person who's going to bring in the most attention, right? And they tend to position this person in the center. And when you look at Friends when it first started, it's Ross, because that's who they were betting on. And if you've actually read up about Friends, the show, Ross was the highest paid actor in the series because Ross had previously come off of another show that he was really popular, right? And they really thought, okay, Ross was going to be the center of attention. And that's how they started off. And if you look at the cover of season 1 of Friends, you will see that it's again that's Ross that's based here. But now, if you try to buy a copy of the Friends show, who do you think is in the center? Any guesses? Right? It's some of the most common names that came in the chat, if you notice, right? The highest common came names, right? Chandler, Monica, Joey, right? Because that's how they found out, okay, these are the characters that are now able to bring in as much attention as they're able to. And it comes essentially to that, right? How you're able to do a balance of both, right? So this is the premise of what I wanted to talk about. And I'm obviously going to give some real life examples of how we're going to actually practice this out, right? But the question that I want to ask here is, what does this look like if you were to channel this energy in your respective communities, right? What does it look like if you're trying to channel warmth? What does it look like if you're trying to channel competence? And what does it look like if you're trying to channel both, right? So we're going to start the first exercise. I'm going to give you a quick scenario, and I want you to tell me how you do this, okay? So this is your scenario, okay? You have a volunteer that's been coming into class very late every single week for the past 3 weeks. You've tried giving them feedback. You've tried talking to them. You've tried doing everything you possibly can. I want you to tell me how you're going to tell this person they can't come late anymore. You have one sentence and you're going to text them this. Okay. What are you texting them? This is a volunteer who's coming late every day for the past 3 weeks, and they're going to come late again. You know it. It's in your gut. What are you texting this person? This is affecting kids' progress. Zufez off the bat. Yeah. Your kid is waiting for you to be on time. Love it. Yeah. Your student will be lost till you come. Oh my God. I am sweating reading these responses. You have signed up for it. That's the ultimate statement. Right? I have said all of these things. Yeah. Just letting you know. Tell the kid to ask them to come early. Oh, Amit. Hectic. I'm not even texting them. I will ask my kid to tell them to come early. That's some ultra level. Anna, why is XYZ Anna always not here? I am getting bored. Your student. Oh, damn. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, you probably are really giving this feedback. It's just 2 hours, dude. JJ, can you come? Can you for once come on time, Ujjeni? This is definitely Ujjeni after a jog. Okay, nice, right? Okay, great, right? So as you can see here, right now that and I really love that we've genuinely shared what we would respond to a person like this. I'm gonna invite the other people in the room. Can you tell me, based off of the responses that you've seen, is it high on warmth? Is it high on competence? Is it high on both? Yeah. Can you all quickly tell me what you think? Competence, right? Off the money, right? And the fact that we're able to see that instantaneously shows you the power of signals, right? And now I think some of you might actually be getting the realization, okay, is this what I'm signaling when I share feedback like this, right? The, yeah, okay, sure. The question here is, okay, JJ, when you're texting, you're talking about signal?
Yeah, there was a slight lag, but it's fine. So
Okay, cool. Thank you, JJ. I appreciate that. Cool, right? So as you can see here, how you're able to come across to a person is what's really going to matter, right? So I'm going to quickly show you 3 tools to keep in mind in terms of how you want to be able to signal, right? And I'm going to share that with all of you. Again, I'm going to ask you a few questions. And now at this point, I want you to start asking asking questions in the chat box, right? Actually engage with me from a practical point of view. Okay, I understand what it is that you're trying to establish, but how do I actually do this in real life scenarios? And I would love to hear your questions as I'm presenting. Cool. So just let me know if you can see my screen. Is it visible? Can you see verbal, non-verbal, and vocal?
Yes, Ramesh.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, lovely. Right. So, right. What does signaling look like when it's verbal, right? You saw what happened in the chat box, just how much power was there in these things, right? Every single word that you use is a signal that you're trying to send to that person, right? Non-verbal is body language, facial expressions, gestures, right? When you're coming to a call and your video is completely off, you are not signaling anything, right? And I've had that experience sometimes. Sometimes it feels like I'm talking to myself. When I see Tarang smiling at me, I feel like, okay, Tarang's actually listening. Thank you, Tarang, right? But jokes aside, I do mean that, right? The energy that I'm able to reciprocate comes a lot from what all of you are able to give me, right? And when your video is off, for example, I don't get any signals, and that also means that you aren't making an impression. I can take away nothing from our interaction if that's the case, right? And that also means how you show up physically, how you show up offline, and lastly, vocal, right? There's a difference between "oh, you came" and "oh, you came." Right? The first one is exactly some of the text that we saw in the chat box. The second is them genuinely feeling like you're happy to see them. So how do we actually practice these things, right? When we talk about the power of words, right? So here, when you're trying to channel both of these things, these are some examples of warmth versus competence, right? And there's no right or wrong here. You're just trying to find a balance of both, or you're trying to lean into one or the other, right? Sometimes when you want to actually discuss strategy with your volunteers, when you say, hey, can we meet for this? It doesn't necessarily communicate what it is that you're trying to achieve. What you actually want to be able to say is, hey, can we come together and brainstorm on some ideas as to how we can plan for celebrations? That's very different from, do you all want to meet in a cafe so we can talk about Children's Day? Do you see the difference? Right? That's you channeling how seriously you're taking your upcoming celebrations. For some of you, you may feel like talking about a cafe is the best way to get them to come in before you trick them with a Google sheet or a Canva whiteboard. Right? For some of you, you may feel like, okay, if I say you want to hang out in a cafe, my volunteers are not going to care because they're hanging out in cafes anyway. Right? So that's how you're trying to find out the difference between these words, right? And you can see that, right? When you say hashtag in this together, it's very different from hashtag big audacious impact. And this is how you can use words when you're texting your community, right? So this is an example. These are two examples that I want to show. Feel free to ask questions here if you feel like this may or may not work in your community. I would love to hear them, right? But the important thing is think about how you want someone to feel before, during, and after interacting with you, because you can text someone as though you're an autopilot where you're thinking of 200,000 things to do at the same time and they can feel that energy, or they can feel like they've been catapulted to the skies because of the kind of passion that you bring when you talk to them. How they feel after they talk to you is entirely up to you, right? And a lot of times I've seen that sometimes people think, okay, what if they don't like me, right? Know that even if that is genuinely true, most case it's not, right? Most case we don't even have the time to really dislike someone, right? But let's fall into that paradigm of what if this person doesn't like me as much? The way you interact with them sets the narrative for how you interact with them the next time, right? I could not be as big a fan of you, but if you make me feel like my ideas were worth it, next time I will actually look forward to sharing ideas with you. So don't try to give into your internal narratives, because understand that your narratives are set by your own behavior, right? Okay, so Pooja is asking me, should we align more towards warmth or competence? I see the answer is it's a balance of both. You want to be a balance of warmth and competence. I have been told by people in my team, right, that they think that when I ask them what their good thing is, that they don't know if I really care. Because for I'll ask for good things in the first 5 minutes of the meeting. And then for the next 55 minutes, I'm talking about our plan, our strategy, our next actions, when you'll get back to me, all that stuff, right? And then the small shift that I made is I just started cracking a few jokes here and there. And that automatically signals that I care, because I do care. It's not that I don't care, right? I just tend to I just tunnel vision when I see an Excel sheet, right? But when I crack a few jokes, when I check in with them, when I ask them a little bit more questions about what's going on, they also understand that I do care. It's just that, I'm very passionate about planning and putting things together. So, but on the other hand, right, I've also had people tell me that, hey, when I walk into a room and I'm suggesting an idea, it doesn't feel like they're engaging with it as seriously. right? Because maybe the way they pitched it would have been like, hey, I don't know if we can do this. What do you think? Right? I could be wrong, right? This is a really fun idea, right? But what you're signaling there is either underconfidence or you're signaling that you're pitching an idea because you're excited about it. But why should the other people in the room care? So the answer is I can't choose for you, Pooja. You have to decide based off of your room whether you want to lean into warmth or competence. But the answer is usually both. They should feel excited that they spoke to you, and they should also feel like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. And that comes down to how you make them feel about themselves. I hope I was able to answer your question, Pooja. That was a great question, though, right? And as you can see, you get others emotionally excited, and they start hyper tuning to you. Right? I like to pick like actually all the people that you mentioned, like JJ, Kanchan, Bhavani, or Aruj, right? All of these people, when other people interact with them, generally have very positive things to say. Because I know them a little bit better, I would tell them, hey, that's not true. But they're able to make really good first impressions and continuing impressions. Right? I'm joking. I was joking about that. But my point is that they're able to do both of these things, right? They're very passionate about their ideas, and they also make sure the point that you have a good time when you interact with them. So that's what you're able to do. So, yeah, and this is another really good thing, right? And this is what really worked for me also in my call. What are the first 10 words that you say when you talk to someone, right? And that's why openers play a really big role, especially for those of you that are living in teams, right? I'm sure a lot of you are generally living in this world, right? You're asking, the weather is so nice, no? Right? Are you ready for class? Right? For class, right? In Tamil Nadu and all, there's a very classic line, Saptiya, they'll say, right? Which is supposed to communicate that they're very interested in your routine. It's the most boring opener in the world, right? Had breakfast, or it's just awkward silence, right? Video off, audio off, nothing, right? If this is what people are taking away from you the first time that they're interacting with you, you're not signaling the right things. But on the other hand, if you're saying, hey, it feels so good to see you, what's your good thing? Anything exciting that happened? I found this interesting idea I want to try out. You're signaling different things off the get go, right? That's yeah. Evan is also saying Karicho, right? Kemcho, right? Right? All classic lines, right? Right. So yeah, okay. JJ is just having fun in the chat. So these are some of the different ways in which you can signal when you're talking to people, and also you have your closers, right? Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Okay, bye. Right? Or you can say any of the statements on the right, and it immediately changes how people are signaling towards you, right? So know that when I'm suggesting these things, I'm not asking you to be a hyper wholesome person all the time. That's not what this is. It's about being purposeful, right? I'm not asking you to be a more extroverted person. I'm asking you, can you be more intentional when you're interacting with people and make them feel good and make them feel like they can rely on you? That's not the same as being positive all the time, right? I can choose to not have a smile on my face and still tell you that I care about you and still tell you that I have a plan, and you would leave feeling very positive, right? So that's your metric, right? So I'm just going to quickly go through this in the interest of time because I want to hear more questions, right? I know there's a lot of content. I will definitely filter this out for you. Don't worry about it. But I just want to focus on the next two things, which is vocal, right? How do you come across when you're talking to people, right? And that also comes across with your tone. That this is an experience I have seen someone else have. They tend to be quite sassy. So when they give an affirmation, it sounds like they're just being sarcastic. Yeah, literally, JJ has this infamously. He will share something super sincere, and people will be like, "JJ, are you being serious right now?" Right? But the people from Kerala maybe don't see the side of JJ, right? I'm sure he's a very serious high commander there. But that's the point about how vocal you come across, right? When you choose different, like the way your voice comes across in certain scenarios can define how people perceive you. Maybe your volunteer could have been a little late to class, right? Or say your leaders were a little late to class. You can hear when that person feels a little annoyed, right? If I see you coming 5 minutes late, and I say, "Oh, you just got here," that's neutral, right? Or at least a little bit passive aggressive. Hi is okay, okay, come on, let's start, let's go. We have to get this going. That's enthusiastic. And then there's the last part. You know we were supposed to start at 9:55, right? You can feel the intensity in the room, right? And that's because of how you vocally come across. And a lot of us have this subconsciously and we don't realize it, right? So there is a power of high pitch and low pitch, right? When you're high pitch, you can sound stressed, you can be nervous, you come across more confident and calm when you have a low pitch, but the converse also applies, right? When you come across high pitch, you can be excited, and when you're low pitch, you can come across as unenthusiastic. right? So your ability to use pitch, your ability to use volume plays a big role in how you come across, right? So even on call, if you don't do an audio check and you don't realize that you are coming across very muffled, it can come across as, okay, you don't seem very confident about what you're talking about, right? But the ones who are able to come across as confident communicators are very loud and clear. So that's vocal. Okay. We're going to come to the last, which is non-verbal, right? So when you look at the show Shark Tank, right, there are around, like, okay, there are hundreds and hundreds of contestants that come to Shark Tank, but you see that some of them get a deal and some of them don't. Any guesses what these sharks look at when they try to pick a pitch? Any guesses what they might be looking at? You can put it on the chat box. What do these sharks look for when they have a contestant walking into a room? Business model, potential, okay. ROI. Okay, when you say body language, I'd like you to go a little bit deeper into that. Potential earning, convincing power. Wow, wow, wow. What else? What else? Confidence, content delivery, communication style. I'm just waiting to see if anyone can see the exact words, right? Um, when you look at this product that was shared by someone, right? It's called Doorbot. This was the founder, came to the show, failed to land funding on Shark Tank, but then later Amazon bought it for more than $1 billion 6 years later, right? Like they call that the ring camera. When we look at their journey, right? When we ask the sharks what it is that didn't work out for them, they'll tell you this person didn't come across very confident about their idea, even though it is literally $1 billion idea, right? This is one of the key reasons that they bring up. They didn't seem come across as confident. They didn't seem like they were passionate about their idea. They didn't seem like this is someone I would want to bank because they always look to fund the founder, not just the idea, right? So the way that you're able to signal plays a really, really big role, right? So when they did an analysis to break down what are some of the most successful pitches that are able to get funding when they look at non-verbal communication, this is what comes up. Did they have high pitch? What was their first impression when they came in? Were they smiling? Were they like gesticulating? Right? What kind of body language did they have? How many gestures did they use? A lot of that really comes into play when you're talking about signal, right? So 81% of them had some sort of interaction. 64% of them, like the number of deals, right, said no, just because they weren't really sure about their numbers. They didn't come across as very confident, right? How they're able to use their hands, right? A lot of that really comes into play when you're trying to signal people, right? If I had to ask you in the room, knowing what your general body language is like, would you say you're stiff, expressive, or are you just this, right? Are you just jazz hands? Where would you say you are in this spectrum? Expressive. I really love that this room is so comfortable with appreciating themselves. It really is a skill. Expressive bit, right? And if you're already there, that's good, right? Because at least now you have an awareness. Then for those of you that do feel like you're expressive, it's time for you to coach your leaders on how they can also be expressive as well. Or if you're a leader, coach your volunteers on how they can practice signaling because your child also really cares about signaling, right? I'm sure a lot of us have faced that drama where a child says, hey, I don't want this volunteer to teach me. Why is that? It's not because they're doing it, they have the capacity to adjudicate how much this person knows when they walk into class. Right? That volunteer probably came in like this, right? Comes in sat like this in front of the child, doesn't smile, just tells them, what do you want to learn? And just sits like that, right? No signaling whatsoever. So what you should be able to do is if you feel you're expressive, try to bring that culture into your leadership rhythms and then furthermore into your classrooms, right? And I love that a lot of you are also saying, hey, I might be stiff or I might be doing jazz hands, right? And a lot of times the best way for you to know is to just look at yourself in the mirror or facilitate a session and then ask someone to record you and you can see what your natural style is, right? I used to be like jazz hands. And then I also used to be very stiff. Like I had very improper signaling or very fluctuating signaling, right? Before I was able to find out what it is that I'm comfortable with. And some of you may still think that I have jazz hands and that's okay. We'll get better with time, right? But that's the journey that you want to look at when you're doing signaling, right? Similarly, when you're looking at the number of deals that were made, 45% of them smiled compared to the 21% of them who did not smile, right? Who didn't get a deal just because of the way that they came across, right? So literally, we're saying through Shark Tank, if you come across with that kind of an energy, you are 9.7 times more likely to be seen as warm and more likely to get a deal as well. And this is literally in the business of making money, right? This is outside of you and I. This is people literally giving you dollars to fund your idea. And when we look at, wait, do we have a chat? No, we don't, right? And when we look at how you come across, right? People are able to look at your expressions. How genuinely are you able to come, right? If you're just like barely smiling, it really does truly come across, right? You've seen someone who you know is secretly annoyed on the inside, but they seem to be smiling, but you know something's not making sense, right? We even have it. It's called an uncanny valley effect, which is like someone seems like they're human, but they're not really human, right? A lot of that is just built evolutionarily into our system, which is how do we take away a person who talks to us, right? And similarly, when we talk about your body language, right, how you're able to come across, right? If you just like this when you're coming and I'm talking to you, you probably think like there's not really a lot going in my head, or that I'm unwilling or uncompromising in the conversation that I'm having, right? But when I sit with you like this and I'm looking at you like this, it seems like I'm listening, although I'm speaking the exact same way. That's the power of how you're able to signal when you talk to people, right? Similarly, how you lean in or lean away, right? A lot of that plays a big role. And when we finally talk about gestures, right? How you stand, right? Like if I'm just like this, if I'm very closed, I come across close, right? If I'm like this, you may think, okay, this dude is like very dramatic, but it comes across as, hey, I'm open, I'm here to listen. And all of that plays a role in how you signal. And when you look at the most popular megastar we've ever had in our country, right? What does their gesture show you? Right? You know, with that smiling face, with that lean, with those arms in the air, you're just feeling like, please take me into your arms. And that is everything about how powerful gestures can be, both in pop culture and in the land of business, right? So this is most of what I wanted to share. There is something a little bit that I want to share, but I want to show you something a little bit more exciting because we want to signal to you that we also take what we do really seriously, right? Last year, you know that in Ultraleaders, uh, we said that we would have master classes and that we would also have post work for you. We would also have missions for you. And through that, you would get certification. So this time, we're turning it up just a notch, just to tell you that we're really ready to focus on quality rather than quantity. So here I'm going to ask Bhavani to come up and show us how we want to signal to you that we're super serious about Ultraleaders.
Hello. Hi,
Take it away.
everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ramesh. That was such a lovely and very insightful session. And that was magic. Thank you so much for doing this. So before I share before I show you what I want to show, a little bit context, we were really thinking about, like how do we make this Ultra Leaders cohort even more exclusive, right? Because honestly, like you all are the chosen ones. You all have been like nominated by your cities, and because they truly like believe in your leadership, right? So we were thinking about it, and then we got an idea. So we were like, why don't we create a space for you? So before I present my screen, I want a few of y'all to do some drum rolls, some tubba 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 tubba. Please keep doing
Is that okay?
because
Okay. Somebody,
tubba tubba tubba.
folks, please join it. It's very awkward. I'm doing it alone. Tapa, 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 tapa.
Okay, can you all see my screen? Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes. So introducing you the Ultra Leaders website 2025. So this is going to be, like your one-stop hub for all things related to Ultra Leaders. Do you want resources? Do you want the materials that Ramesh used today? Do you want the video of, the session that happened today? Got you. Do you want the different forms? So we've got post work that we'll be doing basically after every session. You should do an assignment or a post work, and that'll be sent to you as a form. So the forms are also available here. And you want to see your stats. Your stats is available here, and so many things more. And even after your post work, feedback will also be shared about your post work, and you can view it on this website. So this link, the website link, will be shared tomorrow, so that you can explore it at your own pace. After this call is over, we'll be sharing the first session post work and feedback form. So please fill it out on time. And yeah, that was it. Thank you so much for your energy and attention. Back to you, Ramesh.
Yes, I have one more thing to share just before we drop off, right? Just a tiny tidbit. Um, so does anyone remember, like, I mean, I don't know how many of us like read up on like news in the past and stuff, but does anyone remember when there used to be something called an AIDS epidemic? Has anyone heard about it? Has that ever come in your general periphery, right? Some of us are nodding our heads, right? Because it was something that really gripped the world, right? Because AIDS at that point in time, it was considered a time around the 80s and 90s that if someone had AIDS, they were 100% likely to die. And no one really fully understood how it spread. I'm sure some of us have even heard if you touch them, it can come to you, which is not how that works, right? It can even be contraction. It can be, you can get it through blood transfusions and things like that, right? And but now it's a lot more manageable as a disease. But when it first came out, it gripped the world like no other, especially in the UK. You can see how they saw it, right? Like it was in the 1980s, right? It was disproportionately affecting people in the gay community, right? Because unfortunately they happen to be big carriers of this disease, right? But it's circumstantial, right? It can affect anybody. But the media, obviously, in its ability to really hype up fear and really peddle propaganda, would call it, as you can see, things like the gay virus plague, the gay plague, right? You can even see someone says, "I'd shoot my son if he had AIDS," right? It was like it's not just about the fear of an epidemic; it was also anti-LGBTQ propaganda, right? And it was very hurtful and it was very harmful. You can see like just the number of lives that it had claimed. But depending on what side of the fence you were on about this issue, you either saw these as unfortunate souls who lost their lives, or you could see this as people who propagated this kind of an epidemic. And there was a lot of fear that happened around this time. There was a lot of misinformation. There was a lot of, like general marginalization that was happening. There's even a very popular Tom Hanks movie where he catches AIDS, right? And he's trying to prove that he's not how to say guilty of carrying this disease, that it just happened to happen to him. And it's a very difficult movie to watch, and it's also based off of very real life experiences. So this is what was happening when the AIDS epidemic was a thing, right? Around this time in the UK, you also had someone else on the other side of media history, right? Princess Diana, right? Very popular. I'm sure some of us still know Princess Diana. I'm sure some of us are still upset about how things might have ended up, right? But Princess Diana was the influencer of influencers, right? She came across as incredibly kind. She came across as very down to earth. She was part of the royal family, the UK royal family, right? But she came across as a rebel, right? She spoke to people's issues. She spoke about social welfare, right? And in spite of being in a place of privilege, these were the things that she spoke about. But she was an influencer for both good and wrong things. There were conservative newspaper outlets that saw Diana as this rebel to be a rebel that was just anti-establishment for no reasons whatsoever, right? All part of being of being a powerful female influencer, right? You tend to grab that kind of attention undeservingly. Diana, in this position, while this epidemic was going on, knowing that there were the world's cameras pointed at her, she decided that she wanted to play an influential role in how people perceived this epidemic. She walks into a hospital. She sees that there's a person in a wheelchair who's been affected by AIDS. Can anyone guess what it is that she did that would play a significant role in shaping public perception around the AIDS epidemic? You can put that down in the chat box. She walks into the corridor. walks straight up to that person with every single camera in the company pointed at her. And she goes and she shakes his hand. This picture broke so many threads that they are deserving of love, that they aren't lesser because they have something like this, that they are victims of something medical, that they can be loved physically and that it wouldn't affect us, that they can be part of our society, that we can be in the same room as them, we can be in the same home as them, under the same roof as them. That one single action played such a huge role in how people perceived this epidemic. Right? Signaling isn't about being 100% all wholesome all the time. It's not about having a smiling face. The signals that you show in your classroom, in your leadership community, to your donors when crowdfunding campaign is happening will really define how they choose to see us. Right? As an organization, we have been propped up by the amazing kind of signaling our community has been able to do for us. And as ultra leaders in this room, we now know that there's a word for it. We now know that there's a framework for it. And it's our responsibility now to go out there and not just signal the right things, because we're already doing that, but also help other people in doing that. I think someone asked in the room, right? How do I help my volunteers feel excited about what they're doing? Because teaching is difficult. What are you signaling when they come into the classroom? Are you the most excited person in class when they walk in? Are your leaders the most excited when they walk in? Are you shaking everybody's hand? Are you doing icebreakers? Are you asking good things? Even if they come in late, do they feel like they're going to get shouted at, or do they feel like they're going to be welcomed in and given feedback later? Do your kids smile when they see their volunteers? Because do you smile when you see your volunteers? A lot of your signaling comes down to powerful moments like this that build up over time. And eventually, when someone comes and asks you in a good thing in some leadership event, what was a turning point in your leadership journey? You take a moment to think about what it is. And it's usually that someone told you that they believed in you because of how they signaled you. So as ultra leaders, it's 9 p.m. As promised, we're going to end on time. But my ask to you is do the post work, take some time to reflect, but please, how we are perceived and how you choose yourself to be perceived outside of you and I comes down to you. So thank you so much. This is your first session of Ultra Leaders. I loved your energy. I appreciate that your videos were on. I love the questions in the chat box. If I missed anything, please share it in the WhatsApp group. We will see you very, very soon. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Ramesh.
Bye.
Thank you, Ramesh.
Bye, folks. Good night.
Thank
Have a great weekend.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye. All can drop off, folks. We are done with this session. Oh, Ramesh, someone has a doubt, I think.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm checking. Yes, Meghna, go for it, please.
Hi, firstly, thank you so much for that amazing session. It was very insightful. I just have one question. So,
Yes.
I'm a direct chap, and this is my very
Okay.
first year at UNI. And most of the volunteers or leaders that I've brought this year, they're from my network, majority of them. And I've known them, some of them for many years now, and I've known them I got them through my college or, something like that. So there are a couple leaders under my, chapter leadership where they kind of, how do I say, overachievers at this point? I don't know. One, I feel very intimidated, not because they have so much potential to show, but it's this kind of judgment that I get from them that kind of affects my leadership a lot. So my question is that when you were talking about warmth and competence, I don't know which energy to channel more, especially dealing with such kind of stakeholders. So I was wondering if there was an answer to that. Thank you.
Understood. So just to be sure, these are not people who are part of the previous community before. These are people through your network who are volunteering in Vijayawada.
Yeah, Vijayawada started 90% from scratch. So
Okay, got you. So it's your community, so they know you personally, and then when they see you being a leader in the room, they're like, "What? This is the Meghna we always know." Like, is that the energy they give you?
Yeah, they're like my seniors from college and all.
Okay, okay, got you. I mean, okay. So the thing is, I want to try and separate this into two things, okay? Because um, there are some kinds of biases that people tend to have that maybe for whatever reason, no matter how you showcase, those biases may not change, right? And the best way to tackle that is by having deliberate, intentional conversations with them, telling them, "Hey, I feel this way when I'm in the room with you, and I wanted to talk about that. Like is this how you see me? What do you feel when I'm showing up in the room? Like those are deliberate, intentional conversations you need to have." Because you won't be able to handle these kinds of scenarios just through signaling. So I want to separate that from this. Okay, like you need to have those conversations. You need to maybe confront, and it's also a journey for you, right? You're also learning through this what your style is, because you also just started. Like you said, you're a direct chat. Next year, you're not going to have the same batch of people. Next year, when they see a Meghna, they're going to be okay. Meghna was always here, right? That's just how these things work. But I'm going to take this from a signaling point of view. The signaling angle is to always continue to channel warmth and competence. Yeah. I don't think you should tone down warmth in that sense. Like if your warmth is at a 10, but your competence is at a 2, that's a problem. Right. But if your warmth is generally around a 7, then it's just about bringing up your competence as well. Right. So what are the different ways in which you can channel competence? It comes through preparation, right? When you walk into a meeting or when you walk like offline or online and you say, "Hey, this is some of the things that I've planned," and you show an Excel sheet that is like that has a lot of detail. Like people tend to take across the idea, okay, this person's coming really prepared to the call. Right. Similarly, when you're trying to decide on an important agenda, right, sending an agenda and then saying, "Hey, this is the thought process that I have," all of that really signals that you've thought through things when you're walking into a room, right? This is a common mistake I've seen people make because they say, "Hey, I want to decide with the people in my room." They come unprepared. They start blank in the meeting, right? But instead, usually the thing is you have to come with a 70 to 80% plan, and then you create space for the 20% to be discussed, so you can co-create a plan, right? That 70% prep is what signals competence. 20% is what signals warmth, right? So there's a lot of ways in which you can signal competence, right? And sometimes it takes time. When you affirm them sincerely, even after they give you that annoyed look for the 7th time, they know, okay, this is who Meghna is. Right now, I'll take it or leave it. Right. And I always sincerely believe in the philosophy that there is no one I've seen who doesn't like to be affirmed multiple times. So I don't think you should. First is I would say don't let it get to you. Right. You're a direct chap. You're learning for the first time, and you're trying to help Vijayawada grow. But also that if you're trying to signal competence, you can do that through prep. You can do that through reflection questions. You can do that through challenging people, right? And eventually work towards finding a space where like you are able to pull some attention in the room. Next year you'll have a different problem. Next year, these people will think that you're signaling competence, but you're not signaling a lot of warmth with the experience you have. So it just comes with time. That's what I will say for now, just in the interest of time. But I also do think you need to have intentional conversations with them. Sounds good?
Thank you so much. I know it's
Thank
late,
you.
but thank you so much.
Anytime. Lovely question.
Thank you.
All the best. Bye.
Thank you.
Awesome. Drashti, Jhanvi, if you don't have any questions, this is the end of Ultraleaders. Thank you for coming. Jhanvi, are you here? Come. I'm going to remove you, Jhanvi. Don't hate me. I'll see you next time. Bye. Done.
We got 92.
Yeah, boy. That was amazing.